Good afternoon, and welcome to the Daily Journal's Capitol View webcast, where we talk about the latest in Mississippi politics each week with Bobby Harrison. I'm your host, Chris Kiefer, managing editor for multimedia here at the Daily Journal, and we are joined from Jackson by Bobby. Bobby, how's it going? You ready for the holiday this week?
I am. Well, hopefully my wife will be ready by Thursday. I'm ready to eat, but a lot of it depends on her.
Yeah. What are you guys gonna do? Y'all staying in town, or you going to Jonesboro?
Yeah. No, not Helena, but
Helena. I'm sorry. Right.
We normally stay in town for Thanksgiving, and we have some relatives come to our house, and that's what we're going to do this year. Not as many relatives as come in the past, but we're still looking forward to it.
Yeah, good deal. We'll actually be down your way. We'll be in Jackson with Dean's parents. So yeah.
Okay, good deal.
The place to be.
Yeah.
A lot of topics to talk about this week, Bobby. We'll touch on as we go later in the show the cigarette tax proposal that you wrote about over the weekend, as well as the final meeting of the study group formed by Philip Gunn to look at the possible state lottery and kind of what we learned from that final meeting. But first thing was Governor Phil Bryant released his proposal for the state budget next year. There's a lot of items, I guess, in addition to just the numbers. He kind of had some recommendations for different things. But first of all, just kind of give us the overview and the highlights of what was in that proposal.
Well, he proposed spending less money than was spent during the 2017 session. The new budget year goes into effect on July 1st. So this would be the budget. I mean, this is a recommendation by the governor for the 2018 legislature to consider when they pass a budget that will go into effect on July 1st. So as I said, the budget proposal spends a little bit less money than was spent in the 2017 session. I think about 35 million less. Is that about right, Chris?
I'm pulling that up right now. Yeah. $32 million less, or 0.05%.
Yeah. So it's essentially a sort of a level funded budget. But then, he makes some proposals for some new programs. So when you make proposals for new programs and you don't provide any new money, somebody's going to get cut. And in his budget, Mississippi Agricultural Education Program is fully funded. Not fully funded, no. Level funded. That would be
big.
Fully funded. Level funded is more than $200 million short of full funded. But he cuts money going to the State Department of Education. He cuts money again going to the universities, and there's some other cuts. But most agencies are fully funded. But he has a couple of new programs, including the Mississippi Works program, which would be
what I wanted to ask you about. No, that's fine. I was going to say that was kind of what I wanted to lead off with today. Is I thought that was the most interesting thing. This program that would provide some community college, some free community college. But it's not a broad-based, tuition guarantee. To tell us a little bit about I know there weren't a lot of details necessarily given, but tell us kind of some of the parameters of what you know about it.
Yeah. Well, just to kind of explain what it's not. I mean, in Northeast Mississippi, I think both Northeast Mississippi Community College based in Boonville and Itawamba based in Fulton, with the help of their counties in their region and some private donations, they guarantee free tuition for high school seniors who enter into their freshman year at community college if they maintain a certain GPA. Chris, is it 2.5 or?
Yeah, I think it is. It varies by county, and I was going to say on that point, it actually even goes beyond those two community colleges. It's I think it's now all 17 counties in the Create area. So it would be all counties for ICC and Northeast, as you said, but as well as Northwest it has a few of those counties, and East Mississippi also has some, Octibaha, I think, and maybe Clay. So the program is kind of different in each county because it's county supervisors that pick it up, as well as foundations and various sources. But yeah, it's roughly, I think a 2.5 is probably what it is across most of those counties.
And I think Tennessee is in the process of doing that statewide, or they might have already done it. I know their governors led that effort. The Mississippi Works program that Governor Bryant is proposing here in Mississippi is different in that it would guarantee free community college for people entering into jobs where there's high skilled jobs where there's not where there's a shortage of workers in those areas, and there would be boards set up to determine what those jobs are, and the community and free community college would be offered for those jobs. Now, this might be a 2-year program. It could be, as I understand it, might be a 2-year program, which is a traditional community college route, but it could also be just like a semester program, or even a 6-week program,
certificate or something. Sure.
Yeah, where you train and get a certificate, so you could. And these would be, these would be jobs. I mean, you always hear, there's a shortage of people to work on air conditioners and those types of things, and it pays well, but these are not jobs where you go to school for 4 years. And so, Governor Bryant and other leaders have talked about the fact that if you go to the Mississippi Works webpage, which is produced by the Mississippi Employment Security Commission, there's about 40,000 job vacancies there. But a lot of these jobs require certain skills and proof that you have those skills through some type of certificate or education. So that's what the community colleges would be providing based upon recommendations from some type of workforce training board. So that's different than what is happening with the counties up in Northeast Mississippi that are in the create region.
Bobby, I think Governor Bryant proposed maybe $7 or $8 million for this program.
I think that's right.
Yeah, and we had a story actually today, and Jeff Ami from the Associated Press, who does this weekly, I guess it's under the Capitol Dome analysis piece, kind of looked at this and said, even though it doesn't sound like a lot of money, it could be enough, especially for the limited scope of this, because similar to the tuition guarantee program that we have up here, this would kind of be a last resort program, meaning it would require people to apply for federal Pell Grants and any other source of financial aid first, and this would just kind of fill the gap. So I guess my question for you then is that's not a lot of money. What do you think are the chances of it being enacted and getting through the legislature?
Well, $7 million may not be a lot of money to you and me, but just joke. No, it's
right.
$7 million in today's environment with the revenue shortfalls the state has experienced, and it's still a lot of money. I mean, there's an effort to increase money for pre-K. There, you're talking about, the State Department of Education is asking for $6 million to increase that program, and just about everybody agrees that pre-K is very important to the future of the state. By the same token, I mean, there's a lot of agreement that the state needs to up its workforce training game, if you will. So it's going to be, as it has been in recent years, legislators and the governor are going to have to make some tough decisions on, where to spend that $4 or $5 million and where not to spend it. And so, I mean, I think the chances are good, but there's going to be other competing factors that could make it difficult to come up with that $7 million. But Chris, in addition, I mean, there's already some money out there that maybe could be leveraged to do this without having to spend $7 million. That's kind of above my pay grade, but legislators are famous for kind of changing some existing law to redirect money, and there's money already that goes to workforce training from the employers have to set aside a certain amount of money each year for to have into a trust fund for unemployment compensation, and some of that money in the past has been redirected to workforce training, and with with unemployment relatively low, and so maybe that money's not being is not needed as much as it might in a recession. So maybe they could direct some of that money toward this type of program.
I guess in Bryant's budget proposal, tell me if I'm right on this, because maybe it's not related, but he cut, as you said, he level funded MAEP, but he cut K-12 education by about that same amount, by about that same $8 million, saying that the cut would be just for MDE and administration. And so is that kind of how he proposed paying for this community college program? And is there $8 million of extras, I guess, within? I mean, you hear about all the education cuts. Does MDE have that much to be cut by $8 million?
Well, the State Board of Education and Dr. Wright, the State Superintendent of Education, would say, no, we don't have that type of money. And it's that money does go to administrators in Jackson, but you have to remember a lot of that money that goes to the State Department of Education, while is not just for administration, but it goes for to hire literacy coaches to go into the schools to help get kids ready to pass the third grade literacy initiative test. If they don't pass that test and able to read at a certain level by the third grade, they can't advance to the fourth grade. So so that's an important component of how the money is spent by the State Department of Education. Plus, I talked about early childhood education. That money, that's where the early childhood education money goes. Just goes to the State Department of Education. So when you start talking about cutting $7-8 million from the State Department of Education, you're not just talking about cutting bureaucrats, but you're cutting programs. You have the potential to cut programs that have a direct impact on the performance of local school districts.
Sure. Going back to the narrative that went along with the budget proposal by Phil Bryant, another item I guess that he called for that wasn't necessarily part of the dollars and cents of the budget proposal, but he called for more urgency, I guess, in rewriting the MAEP and the state funding formula. We've talked before about kind of the politics around that, and particularly since the rewrite effort didn't call for new money, and there would be some winners and some losers, that kind of seemed to make the politics in the legislature unlikely for a rewrite happening. With Bryant calling for it anew in this budget proposal, does that kind of revive that a little bit? Where are the politics of that right now, would you say?
Well, you don't see any work going on to by legislative leaders to have a proposal ready to be considered in the 2018 session. It's hard to believe it's about to be 2018, Chris. But you hear Philip Gunn, the House Speaker, who was one of the, who first really, he and Lieutenant Governor Tate Reeves were the first who proposed rewriting the school funding formula. He's talked about it in recent appearances. He talked about that before the MEC back in late October. The need to rewrite the school funding formula. But as we talked about, if they're not going to put more money in it and they rewrite it, just by definition, there's going to be some winners and losers, and it's going to be hard to convince a legislator to vote to take money away from his school district his school district to send it to another school district. So we just have to see where that goes. I mean, I'm still skeptical that they can do anything with that new money because it's just hard to do, but you keep on hearing talk about that, so we just have to see what happens in the 2018 session.
Bobby, switching gears, I guess we talked at the top of the show, the committee that Philip Gunn, House Speaker, formed, I guess back over the summers when he formed it maybe, but was to study this issue of a state lottery. They've had several meetings. They had their last meeting last week. Tell us kind of about what we learned from that meeting. Well,
they didn't make a recommendation, which they said from the very beginning they were just going to gather facts and present them to the full House. So they had their last meeting last week, and they talked, they heard from the state economists about the economic impact, and the Stennis Institute down up at Mississippi State University also did similar analysis on the economic impact and also the social impact of a lottery. And what was interesting was that both the Stennis Institute study and the study by the University Research Center, led by state economist Darren Webb, came to reach some of the same conclusions that a lottery is regressive. It takes more money away from while more affluent people, a greater percentage of affluent people play the lottery. There's a significant number of poor people who play the lottery, and they often play with kind of a stated they play to kind of not as a game, but to try to earn money to deal with their bills and stuff. So, so it has a social impact. And then also it's, I think this Darren Webb, the state economist in particular, argued that maybe it was not as big a revenue boost to the state economy as some people might think it is. Why he said that, he estimated that maybe $70 million a year is leaving the state by people going to Tennessee, Arkansas, Mississippians going to Tennessee, Arkansas, and Louisiana to play the lottery. If the lottery was adopted in Mississippi, because of a number of factors, it might be more than $70 million, about 75 million. He estimated leaving the state, even if the state had a lottery. So there'd be different factors at play. For instance, if we had a lottery in Mississippi, we'd I assume would be in the big national Powerball lottery or whatever you call it, where you have the big payouts, and so Mississippians be participating in that lottery with the big payouts, but and so they'd be spending money to buy those big payout tickets, but more than likely Mississippi would not win that big payout, so we'd be financing winnings of somebody in California or New York, a bigger state where it would be more likely that the winner would come from. And then there'd be other factors, such as we don't have a lottery operator in Mississippi, so we'd be required to go outside the state to contract with a lottery operator. So that'd be money leaving the state. So there's several factors like that. And then a key factor I thought, Chris, which I had not thought about, was that Dr. Webb said that, and Stennis came to the same conclusion, that if you have a lottery, that's going to take money away from purchases on other items. So that would reduce the sales tax in Mississippi. But Dr. Webb said this reduction in sales tax would be more than offset by the purchase of lottery tickets in terms of state revenue collection. But where it would not be offset would be, for the municipalities. Under Mississippi law, I think 18% of sales tax revenue goes back to the municipality where the purchase was made. So that would be a loss for the municipalities with no thought of how to make that up. So that, the local governments they're dealing with transportation needs and other stuff. So that could be a real hit to their budgets. So that, that's another factor. But, the flip side is there is money leaving the state, $70 million a year go to another state to buy lottery tickets. And another issue that can't be discounted is, I think Mississippians just won a lottery. And so we'll see how all those factors play out in the 2018 session. Even if it doesn't pass in the 2018 session, I think the lottery is an issue that's not going to go away. I think it'll be an issue that continues to generate debate. And we're one of only 6 states in the nation that does not have a lottery. So so a lot of folks in Mississippi say we want the same opportunity to buy lottery tickets and throw our money away as as residents of other states.
Yeah, as you said, the committee didn't make a recommendation. They weren't going to make a recommendation. That was kind of the plan all along. They're going to have an extensive report for the legislature that legislators will look at as they use to guide them, I guess, in the 2018 session. Kind of what is your gut? Kind of what are you hearing as far as support goes? Do you think it'll have the momentum this year, or how far do you think it'll go?
It would surprise me if it passes in 1 year. I like I said, I think it's an issue. It's not going to go away, but I just don't know if 2018 is going to be the year that it actually happens. But I will say this, Attorney General Jim Hood, Democrat from Houston, who is, perceived to be the leading Democrat candidate for governor. It appears to me he's going to make, a lottery part of his campaign platform. His line is, to paraphrase, he's a Baptist, and Baptists don't believe in lotteries, but he's also a pragmatist. And there's, it's hard to raise taxes in Mississippi, so lottery be an opportunity to place to go for some revenue. So that could be part of his campaign platform now. You know, the leading Republican contender for governor, Lieutenant Governor Tate Reeves, not the leading contender for governor, Lieutenant Governor Tate Reeves, excuse me. And so I could see a scenario where he got behind the lottery to pass the lottery before the 2019 elections to sort of take that off the table as an issue for Hood. And Chris, and you may have the numbers in front of you. I mean, I guess we should point out what Dr. Webb and others.
As far as the amount of revenue.
Yeah. Roughly between $85 and $95 million, somewhere in that range.
Yeah. Let me see. I had that per year. Here it is. So the sales from a lottery would be about $338 million annually. However, you know, that would get divided down. So about 50% of that would go to payoffs. 20% of that would go to cost of operation, and that would leave about 30. If that left 30% to the state for revenue, that would be, I'm looking for the exact figure, but roughly $90 million. However, he also said that 30% to the state of revenue, you know, might be ambitious. Looking at some other states with similar sizes, Arkansas only had 19% return to the state, and Kansas had about 29% return to the state. So,
yeah, Arkansas, which is, you know, is that Arkansas is kind of a warning sign. There's Arkansas's lottery has, you know, there's been costs associated with that's kind of held down the amount of revenue that has gone back to the state. So I think, you know, if the Mississippi leadership, pursues a lottery, I mean, they need to study Arkansas long and hard, and probably they can take some lessons from some mistakes, what appears to be some mistakes that have occurred, I mean, in Arkansas. I mean, Arkansas does not fit and I'm not sure what those mistakes are, but it's obvious that Arkansas, the lottery in Arkansas is not generating the amount of money that sort of the industry norms dictate that it generates.
Sure. Bobby, one more issue before we let you go. You had a story this weekend looking at a group called, or an alliance, I guess, called the Invest in a Healthier Future campaign, made up of the State Medical Association, American Heart Association, Cancer Action Network. They're working together to try to get support to raise the state's cigarette tax. And they've got a poll supporting their cause in this environment where, in general, Mississippians do not support tax increases. They found 72% approval for increasing the cigarette and alcohol taxes. Tell us a little bit about their campaign.
Yeah, it was those groups you mentioned, Chris, and there's about 20 groups involved in this coalition. Other, health-related groups, Diabetes Association, and groups like that. And it's kind of surprising because you don't think of an environment in Mississippi right now where any tax could be raised. The cigarette tax was raised. It was one of the last tax increases we had in Mississippi. I think I mistakenly said in the story that the cigarette tax was raised in 2006, but it was actually raised in 2009, I believe it was, and went from 18 cents a pack to it was raised 50 cents a pack, so 68 cents a pack, and that still puts us below the national average. And this group and other is contending that with the revenue shortfalls we're facing, that it makes sense to raise the cigarette tax. They're saying $1.50 per pack increase, which would put us above the national average. I think the national average, Chris, is about $1.32 or something.
$1.72 a pack.
$1.72. Well, that still put us, above a little bit above the national average. And they contend that it would generate if you raise the cigarette tax and raise by an equivalent amount other tobacco-related tax on other tobacco-related products like smokeless tobacco and those types of things, that it would generate about $200 million a year. And also, more important to them is that raising the tax has proven to be an effective way to reduce the number of people smoking, and that's their ultimate goal, is to cut down on the number of smokers. And so they're saying that you could sort of get two birds with one stone. You could reduce the number of smokers in Mississippi, which would, increase healthcare costs and programs like Medicaid and other programs, while at the same time raise more revenue for the state. So, and actually, it's just a gut feeling. I don't have anything to base this on, But I actually think this might be something that leadership looks at in the 2018 session. I just think that they've cut so many taxes, and they're dealing with revenue shortfalls, at least in part because of all the taxes they cut. This would be a tax increase that would not be, as the poll indicated, would not be unpopular with a large segment of the population. Now, that poll done by Mississippi State also showed that similar, or the same, actually a little bit more support for increasing the alcohol tax, which I thought was kind of ironic, because back in 2015 or 2014, the legislators actually reduced the tax on liquor.
Right.
So we'll. And I don't really expect the liquor tax to be increased, but I could see a scenario where they increase the tax on cigarettes and other tobacco-related products.
But that's interesting, because I know in your story you had a quote, a pretty emphatic quote from Steve Holland that said, "It's it won't get out of committee, and not a chance that it'll happen." And you also quoted Republican Representative Jim Beckett of Bruce, saying that he didn't have a position yet. He hadn't looked at it. Nick Bain had similar comments, Democrat from Corinth. But you're saying you think that this, potentially could be an avenue for the state to get some more revenue.
Yeah. Now, Holland's a lot smarter than I am. And he actually would probably vote for the cigarette tax increase.
Mm-hmm.
But he was sort of a leader in 2009 in getting the cigarette tax increase that was passed that year through the legislature. But it's just, and I don't have anything to base it on other than just kind of a gut feeling that that might be something that actually garners some consideration, either in the 2018 or 2019. If you're going in the 2019 session, I could see it maybe not happening in 2018, but happening in 2019. You're going into the 2019 session, that's an election year, and you still have all these shortfalls, and you're still dealing with having to cut budgets. I could see, a proposal that would generate $150, $200 million a year as something very enticing to legislators seeking re-election.
Yeah, sure. Well, it'll be interesting to see what happens to follow up on that and all these issues as we get closer now to 2018, as we talked about at the top of the show. It also means the new session will be here before you know it, and the pace of things will start picking up. So we thank you for joining us. That does it for another episode of Capitol View. We remind you can catch us each Monday at djournal.com at 2 o'clock. The replay is also available there at djournal.com, as well as on our Facebook page. So again, we thank you, Bobby Harrison, for joining us as always, and everybody have a great Thanksgiving, and we'll see you next week.